It's the Dadnarok Aftershow. Now, here's Chris and Sean.
Welcome back once again. It is the Dadnarok After Show. We're talking about Ahsoka. This is Sean.
And this is Chris.
And we are here once again. It's Wednesday night. Brand new episode. Episode 3 of Ahsoka dropped last night, Tuesday night. If you're not aware, it's not Wednesdays, but Tuesday nights that they're dropping, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's appointment television for me.
And it's time to fly. I mean, as this episode's called. Oh, no,
Time
I'm
to
on
fly.
it. Yeah, right at 9 o'clock. 9 o'clock hits. And, like, actually, I am opening up Disney Plus at 8:59. Like, I'm preparing. Like, I'm getting moving. And then, boom, I'm ready to go. So, I'm loving it. You're loving it. Like I said, appointment TV. Because if you're loving it as well and you love hearing us talk about it and you want to get your opinion in as well, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. If you're watching live, you're part of the conversation. So come along with us for this ride, and let's just dive into the funness. The funness is that a word? Funness?
That's not a word. Yeah. Speaking of which, Amber is back with us this week. Hello, Amber. Hopefully, you actually saw Ahsoka this week.
Well, I think she was behind last week. She didn't see 1 and 2 yet. So.
Spoiler alert! We're going to be ruining it for you.
Oh boy.
Yeah. So if you didn't notice, I'm wearing my Ahsoka colors. This is my Ahsoka shirt. The orange and blue. It's very, very snazzy, very appropriate.
I'm dressed for the color of which side I relate.
Yeah, you got Maul behind you right there.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Amber says, so I watched the episodes and I must admit I'm very confused. I never watched the Star Wars cartoon, so I'm very confused. Well,
that's what we were hoping wouldn't happen, though. We were hoping that you didn't have to, you would be lost if you dove into it. Now, looking back on that episode, there was some things that I didn't realize that was taking place. The timeline was kind of wonky. Like how they ended with Sabin with her haircut, touching the mural and walking off. That was actually a shot-for-shot remake of the end of Rebels.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize the timeline was kind of a little wonky there, but...
Episode 3, Time to Fly. What are your overall thoughts?
Fun. I'll say very fun. I think I'm going to echo what you said within our little group that we have that text during the show after we watch it response-wise. And you said it put the Star Wars in Star Wars.
Yes.
We had the battles, we had the flights, we had all that going on. We landed on another planet. I love the fact that we're in a different area, another new planet. I loved, just some of the political aspects about it. I was hoping we'll get some of that. And it really fortified my disdain for Mothma. It really just leans right into why I don't like that character. But
yeah,
and it's not even her. I think it's meant to kind of be that way. But
well, it's this overall malaise that we see from these senators and these new people in power. One of which Hera even calls out for not even being a part of the previous Galactic War.
Love that.
So yeah, that's kind of an ongoing theme, I think, with the New Republic in itself. And there were, Andor talked about this. There's points of Mandalorian that talks about this. I think this is kind of where they're headed. This is like a known quantity that the New Republic is almost set up to fail at this point.
Yeah.
And that's why, eventually, look, Leia branches off. She splinters off and does her own thing. And she's like, New Republic sucks. I'm gonna go do my own thing.
Yeah.
And that was in the sequel trilogy. So
basically right off of when the Empire fell and Mothma and everyone took over, they started disbanding the military.
Yeah.
They basically got rid of all of it. And with it being a rebellion, it really was never even a military. It was every individual, planet and organization supplying it. So when they started disbanding it, even this conversation here, when they say they don't believe believe Hera, that
right.
Thrawn could be alive, this could be leading to that, and just that whole aspect, I can almost see it from their eyes. Like we don't truly have a military. Mon Mothma basically dissolved what we had as a military.
Yeah.
So what we have is more of a planetary defense. So they don't have anyone to actually go ahead and lead off. Now I wish Hera, she's in a different spot now, but I really wish she would have went ahead and maybe was able to get a hold of the big hairy guy.
Chewbacca.
Not Chewbacca. On the ghost crew.
Zeb.
Zeb, thank you. I wish I was able to maybe get a hold
Well,
of Zeb, and Zeb could have taken the ghost and done some recon with him.
I mean, that's what I think we're heading towards. I think this is the episode that defines that, like, hey, Hera's not going to have the resources of the New Republic at her disposal. She's going to have to, like, claw and get something together. I think maybe next episode, either it's going to be one of two things. Either Ahsoka and Sabine are in trouble, and here comes the cavalry. Like, Hera pops in with Zeb and maybe even Rex, or, like, I don't know. Like, they're going to come in and to the rescue. Or it's we're gonna actually see that in motion, which I would like to see. I would like to see anytime Hera's on the screen and she's doing her rebel thing. I'm here for it.
She commands that screen. I didn't even realize the actress, I'm not sure her name off the top of my head, is actually married to Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor, yeah.
So I mean, there's some serious Star Wars blood going on here.
Oh yeah, that's some Star Wars. Yeah.
But what do you think of seeing Jason? We've finally seen him.
I'm glad that we saw him. I'm glad that they finally addressed that he exists in this show. It always kind of confused me because he looked kind of like a human in Rebels too. He just looks like a human with green hair.
There's no Twi'lek really in him at all.
No, which I guess if that's the way you want to go, maybe it saves them from doing some weird makeup job or something. Like, I'll run with it. But it always kind of did confuse me because the Twi'lek head tails are such a significant part of their anatomy.
Yeah,
that you would think if like half your DNA is from that species, then it would pop up somewhere.
It's got they got to have something in there, not just green hair. But
maybe he'll get nubs later in life. Maybe they'll be short, little dangly ones.
They're gonna grow in under his hair.
Yeah,
you'll have a mullet of
I'm curious about what the fate of Jason is because we are in such a precarious time for the Jedi as a whole. That's why I love this period of the decade or so after Return of the Jedi, where Luke is trying to reestablish the order, where Ahsoka is out here doing her thing, where even Balin, who seems to be a bad guy, is remiss about like another Jedi dying. He's like, that's sad, that's a shame. Like there's not many Jedi around.
There's not many left.
Yeah, so that's why I love this period of time. And any force sensitive person, whether it's Sabine, who we find out, here's one thing to talk about. So Sabine, they really address her having a lack of force sensitivity in this episode.
Like Huyang holds nothing back when it comes to like bluntness. K2SO, but he's so much smarter than just a brute muscle like K2SO typically. Pretty much is.
He's like a wise droid. He's just been around for so damn long that it's like, he knows so much.
But when he's sitting back, it was hilarious.
Yeah. Amber likes Huyang too. David Tennant voices Huyang, and he is doing a great job. What a get to have like all these like British celebrity voices do droid voices. It's so great.
I loved when he was like, "You're the worst Jedi ever." Or you've never even been picked. You've never even been picked by the council.
Yeah, look, I mean, desperate times. You know what I mean? Like you got to take what you can get.
But it leans into just the what I'm just having a hard time when it comes to this. Now I know how they explain. The Force comes to everybody. It takes a lot of training and patience, to be able to master it.
Yeah.
So if you're not force sensitive, once again, training and everything and it's just like, and Huyang even mentioned it. He's like, well, I guess you're not a typical Jedi either. And you come from a line of non-typical Jedi. So she falls into that non-typical, but I like the fact that they didn't have her move the cup.
Yeah.
I was sitting back fearing that one of the last cuts before she moved, she was going to move that cup a little bit, maybe even just shake it. And I like the fact that they didn't do that because I would have been out. I would have been completely out on the whole Sabine Jedi thing.
Well, I think the language is that they're going to get there. You don't introduce her trying to move the cup without eventually seeing her move the cup. Narratively, they're going there.
I know.
You know how these things go. You've seen stories before, right? Like, here's my thing. Even early on, as a Star Wars fan, back when it was just the original trilogy, right? Before when the prequels were still coming out, I always had the feeling, because Ben Kenobi says as much. The Force flows through everything. Yoda says through anything. Between me, you, the rock, the trees, like every living thing is connected by the Force. So whether you are a Jedi or not doesn't mean the Force isn't flowing through you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the Force is what it is, and a Jedi has the midichlorians or
You
whatever, the
beat me to the
natural talent.
midichlorians. I was going to
Yeah.
drop it. You dropped the midichlorians.
Well, they dropped that, but it's all the midichlorians. I mean, that was a big, hoopla back in the days of the Phantom Menace because they were basically starting to explain the mysterious ways of the Force, which nobody likes to be, when mysteries are solved. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That people like when mysteries are mysteries. But the whole thing is like I always felt as though the people that aren't necessarily Jedi or Sith can still sort of kind of tap in here and there to the Force. I always thought that maybe the reason Han Solo was such a great pilot is because unconsciously he had a quick reaction time and was like one with the Falcon. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
he loved that Falcon so much, and him and Chewie, like that's why the hell they got into so many scrapes, is because they were riding a wave and this invisible wave of the Force that they didn't even realize they were riding.
I mean,
Meanwhile,
that
he's
fall
like the
fall
Force
right in line with
fooey.
Anakin when he
Yeah,
was pod racing. He had no idea what was going on, but he had the quick responses and the reflexes to be
exactly.
able to, navigate those courses. So
Not to
I
say
understand what you're saying. Yeah.
not to say Han Solo could pick up a lightsaber and like duel Darth Maul or anything, but I feel like that's just like unconsciously there's a way of tapping into this, even for a person like Sabine, who already has the training of a Mandalorian. I mean, she's she's not like a rookie
Oh
when it
yeah.
comes
No,
to
by
like
no means.
moving stuff with her mind and stuff. Yeah, of course. But as far as like fighting, she's got a nice head start. And I did love. How did you feel about the training sequence?
I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah,
I did enjoy the training sequence with Hu Yang. Oh, hey, Yang. Am I saying that right?
Hu Yang or
Hu
yeah, I
Yang.
don't know.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I love that. That was fun when they're going back
Mhm.
and forth, and it looked like things were going right. Then he actually lit up like I guess the hits that were wrong,
Yeah,
and
that was so cool.
that whole thing was actually fun to watch. Now, when Ahsoka comes in and she puts on like the helmet so she can't see, that was a step too far for me in that instance. I feel like we could have cut some of that out,
Yeah.
or even that whole scene with her training her with being blind. That wasn't needed in my mind, in my opinion.
Oh, see, we're actually opposite ends here because I critiqued the first couple episodes of maybe a couple scenes dragging because they were really kind of taking a long time, like Ahsoka solving that puzzle like in real time as we're sitting here watching her. I actually liked this episode, them taking their time because there were character beats between the two. There was basically a nod to Luke training on in A New Hope on the Falcon with Ben, that kind of same kind of feel, but it was also different. It was new techniques. It was with Ahsoka, who's definitely different than Ben Kenobi. Like I enjoyed the similarities and the differences. I liked watching Sabine. It was all very believable for me. Like they're not just handing Sabine a lightsaber and be like, okay, well, she's a Jedi now. Like she's gonna have to put some damn work in, and she's working, and I love seeing it. So yeah, that whole scene I actually liked quite a bit.
Or maybe we could have just slow. I mean, I don't know. I don't feel like it moved. I'll bring that up later, but I don't
Yeah.
know. It didn't work for me, and I think it's not. It didn't work for me. It's just because I'm having a hard time wrapping my head around the thought of what they're doing. Maybe if I would just submit to the idea that this is where we're going,
Right.
maybe I'll enjoy that a little bit more. But I
Yeah.
mean, when you got to the point where they come out of hyperspace and they get the message from Hera saying, "No one, we can't come. I can't bring anybody,"
Yeah.
and then they break into that dogfight. There's 6 versus those 2. That was fun. That was old school Ghost, and
Yeah.
Hera and the Ghost, the 2 different gunners. I mean, basically, well, we only had 1 rear gunner in this instance, but I mean, they were outnumbered. The shields on this thing, whatever she's flying, I don't remember the name of it, is
I was thinking
spectacular.
that. I was thinking that the entire time. Like, wow, they must have really beefed up the forward deflector shields on this thing.
Because man, it was
Because
taking a
man,
beating.
they were getting rocked. Yeah, Ahsoka putting on the spacesuit, hopping outside and taking care of business, buying Sabine some time.
That was cool. Originally, like I wasn't for a second. I was like, "Oh, I don't know if I like this." Then I was like, "Hold on, pull my roots all the way back to Clone Wars. I
Sure.
want Plo Koon." He used to
Yeah.
pull that move every now and then. Not so much that exact move, but he would be outside of his ship, in space during space battles. So
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that's a nod to Clone Wars. That's a nod to her youth
Right.
when she was kind of pulling that. And I just I thought
And
it
it's
was fun.
brash. And it's brash, right? It's like the same kind of move. I can see Anakin pulling the same move because it's just like, hey, I'm gonna do what needs to be done in this moment. Like, I know this is like kind of crazy, but I can do it. Like that speaks to that young brash Anakin that was, the master of Ahsoka all those years ago.
So let's stop
So I
talking
liked it.
about it and let's actually just take a look at it.
Yeah, let's see it.
She's on the way.
I see her.
The one time I could use your advice.
All about that jumping around. That was
Yeah.
it was fun when they were coming in. She said, I know she's on the wing. They come after her and she does that flip and slices the wing off that one fighter. That
Yeah.
was
It felt like old school animated stuff. It was fun. I liked it. I can see why certain people would be taken out of it, but I was there the whole time.
and I think
With
there
the
had to have been
score
something gravity wise, a gravity boot or magnetic or something on her boots
yeah, when
to
she
bring
was
her
pulled
back
back
to it.
down to the ship, you could hear it clunk back down on there. I see here where Amber was actually taken out during that scene. They acknowledge the lack of gravity, but they want us to believe she's fighting in space and lands back on the ship. See, there's a scene in I think it's Last Jedi, I guess, where they got a bunch of criticism with Leia doing the whole Mary Poppins thing outside in space. Now, to be fair, Leia also had the added thing of not having a spacesuit on. It was basically freezing in outer space.
Yeah.
So that was an extra level of unbelievability. But as far as Jedi being able to like move around stuff in space, like they can move stuff with their mind, including themselves. In fact, I'm wondering why Jedi don't like float around more often while they're on planet because I know they could do it.
Just kind of
Like it's
hovering.
yeah, their abilities aren't limited to just
Well,
moving
we see
rocks
Yoda do it
around.
when he's meditating. He would just meditate in
Yeah.
midair.
And I always thought that, like, when Leia reached out to the Force to pull herself back into the ship, if you are, there's the Force flows through everything between you, me, the rock, the ship, everything.
Yeah.
But when you're on land, it's stable. The ship rises because of the Force. But when you're in space, it's not just you grabbing the ship and pulling it towards you. If you're pulling something and there's nothing holding you to the ground or anything, then you naturally pull that way too. I don't know. I don't have a hard time believing that a Jedi can navigate a little bit better than a non-Jedi in outer space.
Yeah.
They got the
Well,
Force.
let's talk about this dogfight because
Yeah.
I feel like Shin and Marrok, in my opinion, just lost a lot of credibility in my mind.
Yeah.
And the reason I say that is they're both Force users, really well done Force users. I mean, she's still a Padawan, however you want to look at it. And Marrok, we're not quite sure who he is, but we know he's a Force user, and we know
Right.
he wields the Force really strongly. And I'm basing this knowledge once again off of I'm going to Clone Wars because this
Yeah.
is where we see Jedi actually in fighters in battles. And we see how actually nimble they are, how quick they can respond, how they can anticipate things. They don't lose anything. They have none of this issues that these two had with Ahsoka. One, and it's two of them.
Yeah.
So why did these two have so much problems with fighting this one? And then the Purgle showed up, which I loved. I love seeing the big space
Yeah.
whales. That was fantastic.
Yeah.
Why were they able to ditch them so quickly? Then why were they able to land in this forest and these two not be able to find them? I know they killed the power, and that's how we're supposed to believe that they didn't pick them up on their instruments. But if they were so in tune with the Force, they should have known a general idea of where they were.
Yeah, I did think that too. I mean, it's one thing to be in the middle of a dogfight, because there's kind of chaos, especially when the Purgle show up. It was believable for me for Ahsoka to be able to break away from the other two because of the Purgle, but not necessarily be able to just like land and hide in the forest. And then Shin is like, "Oh well, they must be in the forest. Let's peel out of here." Like that was a little like, well, you guys have this like natural beacon. You could probably feel her in the forest.
Yeah, why
Like
don't you just land? Because you have to be close.
spend 10 more minutes
Yeah,
and try to look for her because you may be a good chances you'll be able to find her. That was like a thing was like, okay, well, they're just kind of brushing this along to get to more of the story. But yeah, I had some of those thoughts too during that whole thing.
yeah. So I'm like, I don't know if I what that. Oh no, those two kind of dropped the rung on me,
Yeah.
and the fact that the main dude, I'm blanking on his name.
Balin.
Yeah, Balin sends, I don't know, 8 guys, 9 guys to go kill what they think is 2 Jedi. Dude, you're an ex-Jedi. You know how many,
Are you just like purposefully sending these guys to their death or
yeah,
what?
so what are you doing? This is stupid. You got to be with them, or your apprentice has to be with them. They're going to get sliced and diced.
Well, I'm wondering if Balin doesn't want to face Ahsoka. Like he's already expressed hesitation and said like that's a real shame if she should have to die. And if he's in the situation where it's like they're standing off against each other, it's between him and
Oh,
her.
do you think that's why he's sending Shin and Marrok after her and not himself?
That's my theory is that like yeah, like
He's still
he,
holding on to some type of like morality.
he's avoiding this. And in the trailers we know that he's talked about Anakin. So it's like if he's aware that this is once the Padawan of Anakin Skywalker, there's probably a little bit of fear, just the same kind of fear that's like, my God, Luke Skywalker out there, who Luke, got his own street cred, blowing up a couple
Yeah.
Death Stars and
Yeah, right.
destroying the Emperor and Vader. Like, he got his own street cred. But like, yeah, just the fact that like this guy is definitely aware of who Ahsoka is, who Anakin Skywalker is. Maybe he doesn't really want a part of that right now. So I don't know. I'm holding out judgment as far as him, setting off these other because that's the feeling I get is that he's avoiding this conflict.
And that could very well be true. But I was
Yeah.
like, yeah, he knows better. He knows it's not going to end well for those dudes that he just sent into the forest.
He's buying himself some time.
Yeah.
That's what he's doing. Yeah.
And I'm really, really wondering what the relationship between him, Shin, and I'm blanking on names tonight. The Night Sister.
Oh, Morgan Elspeth.
Morgan. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm really curious what those relationships are like because it was cold when there was that battle. I was like, you know what? I'm surprised you brought him here.
Yeah.
And then she took over. And then when she didn't finish a job, Shin's like, I got eyes on him. It's too bad. Congratulations, you didn't finish a job or something down those lines.
Right. They were pretty antagonistic towards each other for sure.
So I'm like, what's actually happening there?
Could be Balin doesn't see the other Jedis as a threat, but also doesn't care enough about those he sends to capture the Jedis to ensure they stay alive. Yeah, I think maybe it's a combo, right? Where it's like he trusts his apprentice to survive a situation. Same reason maybe he sent the apprentice out to go get Sabine initially. Like, he has confidence in her. But maybe, yeah, these guys are just cannon fodder, and he's like, whatever.
Amber's asking a really dangerous question here. What makes a witch in this world? So,
oh, yeah.
It's not so much a witch. They call it a witch, but they're the Night Sisters on Dathomir. And they are essentially dark side users, but not Sith. They don't wield lightsabers. They're able to, they're dead. They basically put in cocoons. And if they need them to come back to fight, they basically hatch out like butterflies out of cocoons and come out and start fighting. They can tap into all these different types of mystical type of aspects of the Force that neither dark side like Sith, I don't think don't even mess with a lot of them. And the Jedi definitely don't miss them. So there's like an area where they play in that a lot of them don't.
Yeah. So, yeah. And the way I understand it too. So in Star Wars, we're so used to these Jedi or Sith, these warriors, with weapons using the Force to jump around and stuff. But there's other ways to use the Force. And these Night Sisters of this planet Dathomir, they've been around for generations and generations, and they've tapped in this very old style of usage in the Force. And they're similar to that way, how we think of like witches calling up, magic and ancient spell books or whatever. But it's like, the same thing where they're tapping into this old, what they call magic, but it's really just like a portion of the Force that's rarely tapped into. And even Sith and Jedi, like Chris mentioned, want to stay away from. They're freaked out by it. But let's see. Amber says, interesting. Do they have ability to choose their path at all? It sounds like they're born into it, but could they choose how they use their abilities, or are they just inherently bad?
That's a really good question.
It is a good question.
They split even male and female in Dathomir. You have the Night Brothers and the Sisters, which
Yeah.
don't even intermingle. And really, the Sisters are the more powerful of that group. Even though we have Darth Maul is behind me, who is a Night Brother from Dathomir. So, I don't think they do. I think it's kind of like inherited, like almost like a religion that they're kind of born right into.
And from what we've seen, yeah, they're mostly dark side users, so they're mostly portrayed as like evil characters or bad or leaning that way. But I don't think they necessarily see themselves as like using the dark side or evil or bad. They're just using what they know of the Force. And because of what they tap into in the Force is like on the dark side, it's easier, it's quicker, more powerful, that kind of thing. They kind of lean into it that way. And to be fair, we've actually not seen a ton of stories around these people. Like, well, we do know one example of one of these witches in the Jedi Fallen Order games. They actually rescue one from Dathomir, who's one of these last surviving Night Sisters, and she's kind of on a path where she's rethinking how she was raised, and she's still using and tapping into this dark energy, but she's actually like, she's surprised by the people's kindness around her. She's on a crew now, like she's having her own inner struggles and turmoil, which is what makes those characters in that game like so fun to follow.
Asajj Ventress is one to look into, because she's a Night Sister that was actually being an apprentice to oh man, I'm so sorry, guys. I'm blanking on so many names tonight. Count Dooku, thank you.
Don't worry, you got me.
I don't know why I'm like this blank, but she's fun. She's a fun one because she goes from apprentice back to the sisterhood, and then she becomes a bounty hunter.
Yeah,
and then she winds up going back to Dathomir, but with another Jedi. So it's an interesting, like, travels. Basically what her world was, what her life was. So that's a fun one to look into if you ever want to learn a little bit more about them.
What else is going on in this episode? Like you said, it was shorter than the other two.
Dude, they got to fix the length.
Yeah.
When it ended, I was like, okay. But then when I rewatched it again today, I'm like, you know what? Essentially, this was 3 scenes.
Mm-hmm.
This was Hera and her like 5 minutes with the council. And then we had, 10 minutes of training, and then basically a 10-minute space
action sequence. Yeah. Yeah. There wasn't much to this episode. Even the stuff that I liked a lot. Like,
okay, so here's a question for you. I said, after I watched it the first time, and I said, I enjoyed it. It was fun. I enjoyed it. I watched it a second time, and I was thinking, did this episode really move the story forward? And my instance is not a lot. Maybe an ounce, but not enough for such a short season to basically not move it forward a full episode.
I don't think that's this show's fault. I think that's the problem of this form factor of watching TV anymore. Because when we have shows of this length, it's typically of a 12, 15, 22 season arc, where you just kind of get a long form story in bite-sized pieces. And it's only a recent phenomenon where it's like, okay, we're going to give you 6 episodes of this show, or it's 8 episodes of this show, and it's going to feel like basically a long movie cut up into chunks. And when you do that, then you run the risk of like, okay, where do I cut up the chunks? Okay, what makes sense for an episode 1, for an episode 2, for an episode 3? This is a transition episode where, okay, they finally, we were reintroduced to the characters. Now they're starting their quest. Where's an interesting point to cut them off before going into episode 4? That's what you're left with when you decide to make an 8-hour movie as opposed to an actual TV show. So I don't think, like, I get what you're saying. I don't know if it's necessarily the fault of Ahsoka in itself. I think it's just where we're at with these streaming services and how they make
They need to
television
lengthen these
days.
shows.
Yeah. I think they all need to do a better job with it, frankly.
Okay, so I wasn't alone. And yeah, and Amber kind of right along the same way. I don't think it moved the story forward much, but
But it had more David Tennant. You know what? I'm with you, Amber. More Hu Yang. He's just like, yeah. He's
Is it me
good.
or are the droids taking over Star Wars?
A little bit. This one has Hu Yang and Chopper. I mean, hey, that's nice.
I know we're not going to get it because of the length of the show, but it would be so funny, just like they did in Clone Wars. All of a sudden, the Star Wars, or say Ahsoka came up there with a different color logo, and you knew it was a droid episode.
Oh,
it was just all driven by the droids.
And see, that's another thing. When you only have 6 to 8 episodes, you don't have the room to do something fun like that. It's just like a one-off, like, the Clone Wars was able to do that. Even Bad Batch, for as much, criticism as the Bad Batch gets for some episodes where nothing happening or that kind of thing, at least they're able to, like, swing the bat a little bit, I mean, like, they're able to, like, take some chances on some things.
Could you imagine if Hu Yang and Chopper went out on a mission together?
I'm here for it. Now that
that would be so funny. The bluntness of Hu Yang and just the rebellion side of Chopper.
Yeah,
that would be so much fun.
I don't know if they'd get along or hate each other.
They'll probably hate each other, but it'll be so fun.
Oh man, yeah, I'm here for it.
So, what do you think we're gonna get next week? Like, I don't even truly know what we're getting next week. I guess it's a positive thing, so I'm now looking forward to next week. But I'm like, I'm not. I know we have to pick up right where we were. The planet, Sabine, everyone is on that planet.
Yeah.
And do they get a beacon out, a distress beacon out to Hera? And then they load up on the Ghost. Or
I think Hera's going to be wild out enough to loot that she lost transmission with mid-flight or whatever, to be like kind of spooked enough to maybe just hop on the Ghost and head to their last location. Maybe I would like to see some movement with Hera and her meeting up with Zeb. I don't know if we'll actually get that. I want to see a confrontation between Baylan and Ahsoka. I don't know if it'll be next episode, but I'd like to see that. Them finally have dialogue with each other. I think we're gonna get more story with Marrok and who this guy is, because now
we need some backstory on him.
Yeah, I think we're gonna get a little bit more of that, because it's just enough to, like, whet our appetite for some sort of reveal later down the line. And I want to see, like, a little bit more progress towards Thrawn and Ezra. Like, I would hate it because next week is going to be halfway through Ahsoka.
Yeah,
like,
I was just checking into that.
Yeah, when you have 8 episodes, next week is episode 4. So far, we've seen 0 Ezra and 0 Thrawn. I'm hoping that they don't just leave those characters.
They're
for, like,
not
the last
doing
episode.
a bait and switch on us, are they?
I
and
hope
give
not.
us like Thrawn, like episode 8 leading into whatever
arrive
movie
at the very end of this season. I would not like that.
There'd be a lot of irritated people.
Yeah,
I mean, they're treading water as is. They're hit or miss on their series.
Yeah,
and they're promising us Thrawn. They're promising me Thrawn, and they're promising you Ezra.
Right.
So we have to get something down those lines, and I'm okay with them holding it closer to their chest a little bit.
Yeah,
and they kind of have. Okay, we're 3 in. We need a little bit more now. We're going to episode 4.
When it comes to episode 4, give me something. Yeah,
because now we have this massive, hyperspace ring. That's essentially going to be finished.
Which is a cool concept. I like it. The Eye of Sion. It has a name. I love the design. I love the concept of it. Like, giving me a little bit of Death Star vibes without being a Death Star. Like,
so
very
are
cool.
they building that in anticipation of Thrawn having a Star Destroyer? And that would get a damaged Star Destroyer through hyperspace.
Oh, I think it's that. I think it's using it down the line to, like, once Thrawn builds up his fleet to, like, maybe we don't know the powers of this thing. Does it have the ability to just send them to any point in space, like, instantaneously? Does it open up, like, instead of traveling through the light speed hyperspace tunnels that they always have to travel through? Does it open up some portal where they just go through and they're there? Like, if you had that kind of advantage, that you would have, I mean, you would like defeat the New Republic pretty quick.
Oh yeah, well, no,
Um,
Hu Yang was talking about, how the Purgle, like the Jedi, ancient Jedi text, we're talking
Yeah.
about how the Jedi would follow the Purgle to other galaxies.
yeah,
We've never been to other galaxies. We know of unknown space, and they don't even know much about that. And we knew, I and a lot of Thrawn fans know that's kind of where Thrawn is from.
right.
But other galaxies, we're talking big ideas here. We're talking outside of where we know so many other stories.
It's never been done in Star. Well, I should say it's never been done. The Yuzhan Vong in the novels towards the end were from outside of the Star Wars galaxy, so they've kind of touched on it before, but nothing that's been like now a new Disney canon. Like, this is brand new stuff. The fact that Dave Filoni's introduced this concept and we're working our way into it, it is very exciting as far as like Star Wars lore. It's very exciting.
That's going to be fun to do. But okay, I want to end it on this now. There's all this, chat. Who is Marrok? Who do you think Marrok is? Or is he going to become something we have no idea who he is?
My money's on Ezra. I think it's got to be Ezra because there's been no talk. We've seen Thrawn in trailers. The only image that we've seen of Ezra has been the hologram from Rebels. They certainly have an actor that they've hired. Unless I don't think Ezra's going to appear as some hermit or something that's been surviving on this planet. I don't, if we don't know what he went through after he disappeared with Thrawn, maybe he and Thrawn were in some sort of thing where they had to lean on each other to even survive. And maybe we don't know what they did after they disappeared from Rebels. And it's been a few years. Ezra had his time with Maul, a Jedi training.
That's very true. Him and Maul were tight.
Yeah.
And Maul was very, very close.
Oh, he was
pulling
whispering honey in them ears, dude. Like, yeah.
When they were in the temple, when he walked in, he actually seen Palpatine. He actually got the Sith holocron.
Direct interaction with Palpatine. Palpatine had great interest in Ezra. So it's like, I think that's high potential.
Would that be heartbreaking? How many people will be pissed that they went down that road?
Pissed and heartbroken, Sabine included, and I think that's why it's making it. That would be a very interesting way to go, frankly, because you set up all this stuff lovingly. Oh, we were this family. Look at this mural of this happy family together, and he left us and he left a hero, and I just want to. He's like family to us, and I can't wait to see him again.
Now he comes back,
and he comes back in this form. Like, okay,
what? Going into this and asking you that question, that's not. I didn't want to hear you say Ezra because I don't think it, and I didn't want it. But I think you explaining your line of thought there, it makes perfect sense. It plays on the complete, and they can actually give him an arc. They can give him a redemption story in the movies. They can almost give him the Vader treatment.
How interesting would that be for Marrok to be a big baddie in these stories going forward? Yeah, like, I didn't even think about that. I thought maybe it would end in this show or something. But you could carry him on.
You carry this character on, and everyone knows him still as Ezra. But when they take on the dark side, they take on a new name.
Right.
So that would make sense on why he would be going by Marrok now.
Yeah.
How long has he been back? That's another thing. So, no, what, dude? The more you told me about it, you sold me.
Was he in a desperate situation where he had to lean on an easier, quicker route of Force usage to get him through sticky situations to survive?
Did they land on a planet like Dagobah that was strong in the dark side? And it just encompassed him. He wasn't as strong as Yoda.
Right. Yeah. Could be anything. We just don't know what happened to them both, Thrawn and Ezra. And we've seen Thrawn. So Thrawn comes back pretty much as Thrawn, still Thrawning it up. We don't know what the heck Ezra looks like now. We've only seen him in the past as far as his Rebels form, So that's what my money's. What were you going to say before I convinced you otherwise?
I really didn't have one, period. I mean, I almost feel like they were going to be adding a new Star Wars character because all the Inquisitors essentially were just nobodies. They were temple guards, or they were
Right.
fallen ones that were able to be, I guess, rehabilitated, or as far as or it could have been Barriss, the one that went against Ahsoka and tried setting her up for bombing the actual Jedi Temple.
Right.
So there would be a relationship there. But frankly, I like the idea, but it's too deep of a cut for such a short show.
Yeah.
Like if they all of a sudden took the mask off and it was her, you would get reactions out of people like myself.
Right.
But like Amber here, she would have no clear idea who Barriss is.
Yeah.
And why there's such a disdain between the two. All of that. We don't know if she's, what's going on with, her. Was she still behind bars, during Order 66? Was she released by a Palpatine, to be groomed into something else? Did she become an Inquisitor? We don't know her actual, her fate. So it would fit, but it wouldn't have the actual emotional hit as Ezra would.
You know what I would love to see, actually, to really make that narrative punch and to help people who are new to the show realize Ezra and his new face, because even fans of Rebels, we haven't seen this actor's face before up close. So if they were to just take off the mask, you'd have to have Sabine be like, "Oh my God, Ezra," because you wouldn't know right away. Be like, "Okay, who's this guy? I don't know." I think they need to do a flashback scene with the Ghost crew from the Rebels era. We see Zev, we see younger Sabine, we see Ezra in his Ezra form back in the day. Maybe we see Kanan, maybe we see Freddie Prinze Jr. Put on a ponytail and talk it up.
That's been something I've heard too, because of the time split, and because of that episode where they did some timey-wimey stuff and they actually brought Ahsoka out.
Right.
I've heard rumors that what if it is canon? What if it's another aspect of canon from a different timeline?
Oh, that would be.
And he is actually Marrok.
They'd have to do some gymnastics. I like that, but they would have to do some gymnastics here in the next 4 episodes, because we'll definitely get some kind of reveal in this series.
We're getting into some deep Star Wars lore stuff here, but
Yeah.
I'm enjoying it. I'm looking forward to next week. I need some more things explained to me, but it's been a fun show. Hasn't been fantastic, but it's been fun. I've enjoyed seeing the Ghost crew. I even enjoy watching Ahsoka walk around with her arms crossed, even though just because we can see them, unlike Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon when they're in their robes. Come on, guys. But I've watched this one twice. That should tell you something right there. I rewatched this one.
Yeah. Oh, it's worth it. The score, the effects, some of the visuals, just the visuals, man. Just seeing these big New Republic ships when we were transitioning to Hera's little crew there, and we see the Mon Calamari ships and all that stuff.
Yeah, I recognize that immediately.
The A-Wings flying around, just visually, it's on point. The score is on point. I enjoy these characters and following this progress and revealing some of these mysteries. I'm with it. I'm totally with it. I can't wait for next week.
There we go, guys. So I guess once again, if you're new to us, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, follow us along this journey, with us finding out who is Marrok. When are we going to see Thrawn? Is Sabine going to be a Jedi? Well, only time will tell. I guess until we see you guys next week, you can go ahead and what? May the Force be with you.
May the Force be with you. See ya.